Open up the door, it's Dave!
Who?
Dave! D-A-V-E!
Dave?
Right, man, Dave.
Dave's not here.
I wanted to take a minute and talk about Tesla, and specifically what's going on with Tesla in the space of what's happening with their stock. So you had China was slowing down the production of cars. You had sales were good in the United States. You have Tesla signing all these agreements to expand their charging network and let more people charge their cars on the charging network. And yet, somehow their stock price took a hit. After their 3-for-1 split, they've been up as much as 20% over what it was at the time of the split, and down as much as almost 30% over what it was at the time of the split. And at the time of this recording, it's basically back to even again. It's more or less what it was at the time of the split. It's just been a very strange time over the course of 6 or 8 months at this point, where things are just really weird with Tesla and how it's going. Now, it's interesting because, like I said, sales are good, and they've got the Cybertruck in the works now. And it's actually coming to production. You're starting to see that show up. They're talking about a redesigned Model 3 that'll be available soon. Model Ys, there's really literally no wait time for them anymore. Model X's are starting to slow down their production, and they may remove it from production at some point. I don't know. And then there's a lot of other questions about what they're doing with their charging network. And their charging network is really fascinating. That is their secret sauce. So the key is to their charging network that if you go in your car and you select a charging location, a destination for yourself, the car will route you to the nearest destination, the nearest charging stations along the way to your destination as you're going along. So it will actually find them for you, and it will look for ones that are not busy, and B, that are closest to the route you want to be on. So it's really pretty slick that way. So you never have any range anxiety. You never have any ability to have that wait for charging. Now, I have heard people say that one of the problems with EV cars, even Teslas, is that the charging network is a pain in the neck. And I have to disagree with them, especially when it comes to the Tesla and the supercharger network. I've never had to wait at one. Wait, let me rephrase that. I had to wait at one once. When I first got my Model 3, there was one time along the turnpike that I was going along, and I had to wait a couple of minutes for someone to pull out of a supercharger space. That was at a point when there were fewer charging stations along the network, so there were fewer available stations, and they were slower chargers. So it was a few years ago. This was 4 or 5 years ago now, or I guess about 4 years ago when this happened. And so it was something that was unexpected, but you don't see that happen anymore. Now, I have heard that in California, occasionally there's a wait for a supercharger, but they keep opening more and more charging stations. And I haven't heard any big scale charging wait times for anything like there was a couple of years ago, especially in California with the number of EVs that are there. So it's really kind of interesting when you think about it, that their secret sauce is really this charging network and how it works, and the fact that the car has it so integrated into it that you don't even have to think about it. You just put in your destination and it gets you to where you want to go and make sure that you have a sufficient amount of charge to get there. And to me, that's the thing that really should be driving Tesla's stock, is the fact that they have this very specific thing that's different from everybody else in what they do. I don't know how Ford or Toyota or anybody else that's going to get on the charging network, I can't remember which other car companies off the top of my head are going to be on the charging network, but I'm not sure how that's going to work for them, if they're going to have some sort of routing thing that's going to happen. But it's really pretty amazing. Another thing I wanted to talk about before I come back and talk about my last thing, which I think you'll find kind of amusing, is that I was recently in Canada. I was out on the west coast of Canada, out by Vancouver. And one of the things I noticed there was a bazillion Teslas there. I mean, I turned around and on every street corner, there was 5 or 6 of them. Seriously, every time I turned around, there was another one. My son wanted to play a game. Hey, let's do Punch Tesla. Every time we see a Tesla, we'll punch each other. And it got old after about 5 minutes. Everywhere we'd go, there'd be another Tesla. You just kept turning around, and there's another Tesla, and there's another one. There were so many of them, it was amazing. I even saw a taxi cab that was painted yellow that was a Tesla. And I was like, what the heck, man? This is crazy. It's so amazing what they're doing now with the number of cars that are out there. So Canada has no shortage of Teslas at this point. But interestingly, they have fewer superchargers. I was looking for superchargers, and there are a few in the Vancouver metro area, but not that many. But they are there. So it's just, I found that really fascinating that there were that many there. Now, the cost of gas there on an equivalent basis was something like just under $6 a gallon. So, it's pretty expensive for gas, and we're paying a little under $4 a gallon for gas here. So I can understand why, at 50% higher, why, Teslas would be so valuable there, because people don't want to pay that much for gas. I mean, seriously. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about for just a minute here was this something that happened. I noticed I talk about the software in my car always being on top of everything. There's the software is fascinating. I just got a software update again, like just a couple of minutes ago when I set out to record this. I saw that there was a software update, so I'm like, cool. But it's interesting because the software is just so sophisticated. I got a message earlier that said, hey, there's a storm coming to Florida, and there is. We're going to avoid most of it, but there's a storm coming, and we should be prepared for it, and we should charge accordingly to make sure that if the supercharger network is not available and we want to take a trip or we have to go somewhere, we're able to get there. So I thought that was a really cool thing, that it had an awareness and was able to tell me that there's a storm coming and what to do about it. A little while later in the app, I got a message that said, hey, by the way, you may want to think about flooding and making sure that you keep your car away from flooding, because the electric battery has a problem with flooding, and here are some tips and things you can do, and they sent you to a website and whatever. And that got me to thinking. One of my favorite attractions ever at Walt Disney World was Horizons. Horizons was this really amazing sort of forward-thinking look at the world, right? It was sort of the Carousel of Progress 2.0, if you will, where they were kind of looking at the future of humanity and what they were doing. It was sort of kind of a neat thing. And so they were looking at families in the future. And one part of the family was doing some farming in the desert. And there was a cute little thing that happened there, which I'll show you now.
Horizons 1 is now departing. Our final destination today, the 21st century.
Hey, that's some destination.
My wife's right. Wait till you see the new towns of tomorrow. Desert farms and floating cities, even colonies in space.
My wife there has a good ear for music. That's our daughter she's talking to. She's doing wonders out there on one of those desert farms. Wrote this myself. Like it?
How did you and Daddy ever survive us? Oh, that reminds me. We both love the solar berry.
That little girl in her head. Like music? Look at that, will you? A few years ago, this was all barren desert. No crops, no irrigation. Quite a transformation.
Well, I'm not surprised. I can see the storm from here. Even the robots see it. Stand by, harvesters.
I mean real showers.
I believe it. Thanks for the warning.
You know, this really makes me proud.
And you wanted her to go to law school.
But do you suppose they ever miss the fun of the city?
Oh, I think they get their share right here.
So in this production, this thing that they created in 1983, you hear the person saying, yeah, even the robots are aware that there's bad weather. And here we are in 2023, 40 years later, and that's come to pass. Our cars are telling us, our robots are telling us that there's rain in the future. That's just amazing to me. I mean, I never thought about it in that context, but when I did, I was like, whoa, that's really crazy. So anyway, as they say in the particular show, remember, if we can dream it, we can certainly do it. Thanks for tuning in. Bye now.
Oh, we're almost back from the future.
Oh, it went by so quickly.
Yes, but one of the nice things about traveling into the future is that the journey's just beginning.
That's right.
And I'll tell you something. If we can dream it, we really can do it. And that's the most exciting part.
From all of us, thanks for exploring Horizons.
What's your point, David?